Well, we're back. It's Tuesday, and we are back with the Eric and Linda live from Workvine 209, part of our pivot. I'm Eric.
And I'm Linda. Thank you guys for joining us today on our Eric and Linda live show. In our pivot, like Eric said, we are interviewing people in the community leaders, business owners, and anyone that could really offer our listeners some advice, some tips to get through our new normal. And we're also doing something really different this year or this time. We're offering a fall promotion. Eric,
Boom,
put that up.
booyah! It's fall promotion. Come and get it.
Yes, so that is our fall promotion. And do visit us on Workvine 209. If you missed it, it's all there. Call us if you need to. Anyhow, we have a great show today. We have somebody in the field of home inspection, and I'm going to have Eric introduce him.
Yes, so this gentleman has a great story to tell. I believe it will help every one of our listeners to really add some value to how you see your home and safety. This is going to be a great addition to, I think, help anyone, whether you own a home, whether you're renting a home. It's going to save you time and money and maybe even your life. And this gentleman, his name is Cliff DeBaugh, and we are going to bring him in and share his story and tell about his business. Welcome, Cliff.
Hey, Cliff.
Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate being here.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of our show. So, Cliff, let's kind of get started and tell a little bit about your backstory with your incident or accident that happened.
Well, the accident was I was rear-ended on West Lane in Stockton, and my head, I didn't hit my head, but I was turning my head. So the incident was like I got hit at like 30 miles an hour, and I was at a standstill, and I got thrown forward. I was in a van, and I'm looking left and I'm looking right, and that let my brain just get hit on all sides. And out of that, I lost, according to the test, I lost about 40% of my cognitive abilities. And it was bad enough that I was in route sales, and my next place to be was the Mercedes dealership. So when I got through with the EMTs and all that, and they tended a lady behind me that was hurt a little bit, and I went into the dealership. I was actually walking into walls because I was missing the doorways. It was really bizarre. And that incident, which you can hear the brakes, you can hear all that happening, and you have no control over it, was a life changer. And I was there, and I was sitting on the curb and just dizzy as all get out. They asked me if I was okay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And I really wasn't. And I didn't have anything on me, and I wasn't aware at the time. That's the whole thing, is I didn't have any sensibilities to give them anything to go, yeah, here, call this person or call my employer. I had to do all that.
Wow.
And and then I ended up I couldn't hold a job after I started recovering, which was about 3 years later before I came into close to normal faculties. And I ended up working as an independent person through one of the temporary work agencies that just paid me a little bit of money to do a task each. And I just went from retail store to retail store. And it didn't matter whether it took me 20 minutes or 2 hours, it was the same task. That's just what I got paid.
Wow.
And I gained my faculties through doing that. And it was my own type of therapy for the job, because it taught me short-term memory. So I could look at, it was merchandising posters. So I was looking at a big poster up here, and I was looking at the bin down below. And I couldn't remember what I saw there when I looked back down. That's how bad it was. And
Wow.
so that trained my brain for short-term memory. And the other thing I did on short-term memory was played a lot of Mario Kart, because no matter what you do, you always come back to the beginning and start over.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like life, isn't it? You come back to the beginning and start over.
Yeah.
And that was a precursor, actually, to other jobs. And I ended up in some great spots and had some great times. And I was in conversation to with a vendor that I was working with at the time. I started a business, and he was one of my vendors, and we were talking, and he says, "You're pretty good." He says, "Can you design house numbers for me?" And I'm like, "What?" He says, "Yeah." And I says, "Why?" And he says, "Well, the homeowners association is looking for a way to reduce response time, and they think bigger house numbers will get it, and they need to be lighted." And I'm like, "Okay." I said, "Yeah." So we talked about designs and all this, house numbers, and it was like, "Okay, I could do that." And I was in San Ramon, and I was driving back home, and I'm like, "Man, house numbers aren't it.
Yeah.
If everybody's house number's the same and it's lighted, you still got the same issue. What's going to set it apart?" So I'm thinking all this on the way home, and I got to where the freeway interchange is. That happened to be patchy. It was in the fall, and there was fog there, and there was a CHP car there, and all I could see was this bright blue light. I'm like, "Wow, that's the answer." It's like that movie Flash of Genius where he with the windshield wiper. And I'm like, "That's the answer." And I'm like, "Okay, wait a minute." I was thinking about it, and it's like, "All right, how do we do this?" Well, we had answer machines, and I went, "Well, if somebody calls in and sets off an answering machine, why can't we reverse that when you call out on a set number that a bright blue light can go off out front?"
Wow.
And I talked to a guy with the phone system after that, and he says, "Yeah, that could be done." And so I have a patent on that device, and that's how I got started. And my patent attorney called it a system. And I'm like, "What the hell are you talking about? It's no system, it's a light." And he says, "Don't worry about it. That's the way I've got to write it." Okay. And so all this time, system, system, system. What's the system? And I graduated into home services, into the fireplace industry, and I'm a service guy at a house, and you see plumbers come in, electricians come in, and HVAC people, and small appliance guys. And something dawned on me is that we all had the same issue. We needed to find the house. We needed information from the consumer, and they needed to be prepared when we got there. And I went, "Oh, wait a minute, that's my system." And it was like this, my own light went off then. And then I thought about it for another 6 months before I actually sat down and wrote my home inspection. And that we are using today for where we are. And it was one of those things that, it was amazing because a service person is going to cost you money because they charge you for time traveled, and you're just going to write a bigger check. Where if you have an emergency and you've dialed 911, you may check out before they get there if they can't find you. You don't have to worry about a check.
That's really important. I mean, for the fire department, the police department, ambulance, is to be able to know where you are. And if you don't even have numbers, I know that people come around sometimes and paint it on the sidewalk, but is that good enough?
Yeah, and it's so important that every second counts, and for them to get to you quicker, the chances of you surviving is greater. So having that light system, is it like the light system at a college parking lot?
It's interesting. My first name actually was Code Blue. That's their system actually in the college. And it is similar in that respect, is that ours only goes off when you dial 911. That's the difference. Theirs is always on the top to let you know that that's the emergency spot in the parking lot. It's a spot of safety, so to speak. You can get through the campus security. And you were saying about how important time is. I had a surgical nurse, and I was just, like, "What do you do during the summer?" "Well, okay." And I told her, and she says, 30 seconds makes a difference between if you're a heart attack patient of being on a ventilator or living a normal life where you don't need to have an oxygen tank later. And it's like, whoa, that's that's missing your house number time, something that simple. And we tell people that your house numbers are your first life-saving device once you call 911. And another way to look at it is, as we come into winter, is if you can't see your house numbers at night when you pull in your driveway, getting to your house, neither can 911. And then you hear people go, well, they got GPS. Oh boy, that's a whole nother subject. There's an E911 white paper that's on our website on readyforrescue.com. And it's an engineering white paper that was done by Sunside Instruments out of Union City. And they did the study for the FCC for the next generation 911. It's called NG 911, on how close the location has to be. And they wanted 50 feet. That's not what the FCC decided. It's a lot more. And what they found in that study is that 40+% of all cell phone antenna is out of alignment. And you can be anywhere from 10 meters to 100 meters away from where your location is to be. So, you're either 30 feet close or 100 or 300 feet away. And that's if you got the two antennas plus your phone to do the triangulation. If you're out in the country, it can be a lot more, because sometimes there's only one. You're out in the real rural areas. And in Tracy, it's interesting is that I talked to a fire engineer, and there's an area south of town they call the Banana, and it's where cell signal drops. And so they have to refer to the map books for the county, for the subdivision, and how the driveways or housing's laid out. And if you're down a lane with multiple homes, it'll show just a list of numbers, and you don't really know where it is. So at night they creep down and try to find a house number to where they're going. So that time, that's all valuable seconds.
So, so can you share, like, with our viewers, how Ready for Rescue can add some value to their home and lessen the time of response, that if there happens to be an incident, a heart attack, or some type of emergency, how your company can benefit them?
Well, obviously it starts with the house numbers. They've got to be visible. We advocate for reflective house numbers. When you talk to the techs out in the field that are on the equipment, they would rather see reflective house numbers than lighted house numbers, because they'll reflect a lot sooner than the lighted house numbers can be seen. And make sure your entryways are clear. If you keep hoses and out off the sidewalk, plants out of the way for by the door. Then once you get in the door, you've got to make sure that your aisleways are clear, just like you do at work. What a concept.
Yeah.
And have a list ready of whoever it is, medications, because information is critical, especially what they're allergic to. Here in the county, they're going to keep you on basic life support. They don't really treat you on scene unless they have to. And then the paramedic comes in maybe later. And I have to say that it doesn't, your districts can change the dynamics. Eric, you've been an EMT. It's district guidelines that you go by.
Right.
And so what works here in Stockton Fire District may be different out in the rural areas or in a volunteer company. So if you have any questions about your response for fire, police, the ambulance company, use their non-emergency numbers to call in on. That's really valuable. Don't tie up the 911 system. And then within your home, it's important to make sure it's user friendly, meaning that you keep furniture out of the way. It's not uncommon for seniors to put a small bookcase in the hallway if it's wide. And all that does is impede progress down there. A lot of your hallways are 3 feet wide, but a gurney's 27 inches. You're not going to walk beside it. And if you got a bookcase in there, you're not going to get the gurney down there. So you have to think about that safety side, and you make sure that the bedroom's uncluttered, or if you allow space between the bed and the dresser 3 feet, if you can do it. Because if they got to move you from one side, if you're on the right side of the bed and they can't get next to you and they've got to move you over, that's seconds. And all those little seconds add up. And it just eats away at the time and the response and the condition of the person. So that the faster they can get you stabilized, the faster your recovery, the better your recovery 90 days and a year out, and the less financial impact on your family. We talk about that when we visit with people too, is that after call. And if you have a call in your home, and it mostly at an older age, but what you don't know is that call could be your first step of losing your home, because you can't get into your home. You can't get into your bedroom. You can't get into your bathroom unless somebody's there. And if you're in a mobile home, it's really serious. So there's always steps to get in. So so what we do with those inspections is we make you aware of this. Take a different look at how let's look at this long term. And if you talk to people that I have somebody I saw that they lived in the Bay Area for 50 years, and they had to move out of their neighborhood because of their medical condition. So they lost their base, their closeness of their neighbors that could look in on them, that knew them, to go into a new neighborhood in a whole different house that they didn't think about when they bought it, because that's why I was there. And they're having to get to know new neighbors. They're having to get to know the system where they live. So all these life changes are hitting them. And I says, okay, so what do you guys do? He says, well, we're over here on the weekends. We're still getting things packed up at the other house. Well, how long's that been? Well, it's taken longer than we think. Well, they've been there 50 years. How much stuff do you have in 50 years at home?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And their kids went, I'm not helping them.
Wow.
It's up to you, mom and dad. We got our lives too, because you're taking too long. And that's reality.
Yeah.
So with our type of inspection, we can head off some of that. We can put those thought processes in. We can put the safety factors in. We can point out that you're, instead of having a 6-inch, 1 or 2 6-inch steps, maybe you're better off to do it early and just put a nice slow ramp in there. Or that doorway needs to be a little wider. Enlarge your bathroom door now. Why not? If you put a 36-inch door opening, it's 36 inches. Then you hang the door, and then you've got your door space between the edge of the door and the door jamb. Then you got the width of the door. So now your 36 is like a 32. Wow. That doesn't count the door handle sticking out.
Right.
And we don't look at things like that. Building code says 36-inch space. It doesn't say that to the edge of the door when it's open, it's the door jamb, the whole side to side. So you get on it's like, well, but my wheelchair. Yeah, my buddy's wheelchair was 28 inches wide and his bathroom door was 22. Lived in an old house.
Wow.
I'm totally serious.
So I have a question for you.
Sure.
So do you work with new home buyers as well? So for example, if someone's looking to purchase a home and they're looking, hey, this is going to be my long-term home where, I plan on, getting old here, right? Would it be wise for them to have a company like yours or your company to come in and say, okay, if you're going to be here, for the duration, these are some things that you really should consider?
You're absolutely right. I was in the dentist office the other day, and the hygienist was saying they were going to build a house. And I says, you make sure, you and I need to talk, because what we do is based on universal design principles and not accessibility principles. And there's two different schools there. Universal design principles means anybody can live in that home, whether they're disabled all the way up to morbidly obese. The doorways are wide enough, the house will accommodate them at any stage. Accessibility means you've met the ADA requirements, but that may not be the whole house. So what good does it do you to have a nice home if you can only use 2 or 3 rooms as you get older? And that's not what we look for. So my advice is, when I was talking to real estate agents, this is another way to look at a home. And it gives more value to house A versus house B. Because house A, you may be able to get into all the rooms, be able to get in and out. You can see the house numbers outside more easily. You have 2 exits that you can get out easily, where house B may not have that. So you have more value within that neighborhood because of accessibility and long-term usage than you do house B. And the realtors I've talked to are like, yeah, let us know. And what we do as part of the inspection is we do take 3D pictures that we're going to keep archived.
Nice.
So we have a reference point. And so if you're building a home, absolutely, talk to us, talk to your architect about universal design principles.
I have a question.
And it's money well spent.
Okay. How much talking about money, how much does it cost to get an inspection like that? Or there's probably different pricing. So can you share?
Well, you're right. It's one of those things that there's going to be overlaps with your home inspection that you would get as far as the mechanical side of your home versus what we do, because we look for some of the same things, because we enter in on fire safety on the home safety specialist side, and we do more of that on the ready for rescue side. And a typical home inspection for a pre-inspection will run you, what, 400's about the going rate right now? Is that true?
Yeah.
I know you guys from real estate. Yeah, more or less. And we could do both of those inspections for that. If and we can divide it out into the home safety specialist side or the ready for rescue side. So it's what works best for the owner. But go ahead.
I believe it's an added value. Like, I'm just thinking of a client of mine right now, and I didn't even think about having their home evaluated because she wants to, take care of aging parents. And so, having accessibility for, paramedics or whoever needs to get to them is imperative. I feel like I'm going to go home and go through my house and, start to evaluate, the safety, because I have an 82-year-old mom at home. And then I'm going to go over to my dad's house and do the same. and then recommend maybe having you come and to evaluate their home, because, I have aging parents.
Mm-hmm. And we all do. And they talk about aging in place. Well, what's your quality of life aging in place if you can use a couple of rooms and you really can't get out by yourself, even just to go out onto the patio? Yeah, I know that when my friend was in a care home, I'd get him what I call an escape for a couple of hours and bring him over to my house, and I served him. He couldn't get in because I had 3 steps. Yeah, I had 3 steps to get in. And I couldn't lift him in the wheelchair. It was too big for me to do that. So I set up a table outside and tablecloth and pulled some flowers out and put them on the table, and he, underneath a shade tree. And that was like nirvana to him. And if you can do that in your own home and you can get out onto your patio and enjoy the outside, it's so much more valuable. It's mental health for them. It's mental health for you because it gives you a break and they stay in a better mood. And it keeps them in their neighborhood, which is
Yeah.
really important because their neighbors will come over and see them. I watched the neighborhood change. The two oldest residents who are in their mid 90s ended up having to move because of accessibility issues. So we see it every day. We don't think about, well, okay, so how do we mitigate that going forward? And it gets talked about, but not made in an awareness. And that's what I hope to create with Ready for Rescue, with what we do to aid in response and cut the time down and make people aware so that when you do get a responder in your home, you can go, here's their medications, here's their list of contacts so that you know and we know. And it lessens the anxiety and the stress level because now you've got control of a situation that you would normally not have control on. You just call 911 and it's like, oh my God, what do I do? I had I had an office manager for a doctor and her son broke his leg at home and she's on the phone to 911. She's home alone with her son and just fell apart. It's like, you run a doctor's office. You got four doctors, 10 employees. What happened? She says, my son.
Yeah.
And so with that awareness, you're gonna lower the stress level. And that's what we're for, you know, and I'll touch on emergency contacts real quick, is that you want somebody on your emergency contact list that can be notified and go, I got this, and not fall apart when they hear the news that, you know, you've been in a car accident or, you know, something like that. You want somebody that's solid. You know, I'm solid in an emergency situation. I'll handle myself later. Let's take care of you first, you know.
Yeah.
But I've been on the other side. And I've been in a car rental and it's like, who's your emergency contacts? They go, oh, let's see. Oh, okay, there's Bob. And, oh, you need another one? How about Jane? Does that work? That's what they said. And they just wrote down the phone number. So if they got called, nobody knew.
Wow.
And if your emergency contact is down, make sure you don't travel with them.
Right.
You're not on the same cruise ship. You're not on the same flight. You know, change your information before you do that. And this things we just don't think about.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about it until I researched about emergency contact. What can you do? And the information came up. It's really simple things, but it's not an area to care for. So I'm hoping to create a lot of awareness out there, and as a byproduct, you get to save a few lives. You get to do that with the fireplace industry too.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I think you have a great story. You know, and it's you know, you're helping people save time, and I mean, it's helping me to look different at home, you know, as far as safety. And I mean, I think this is very good. I know you talked briefly about how at work we always put systems in place. They have these guidelines and we're following them, but then we go home, we don't have anything in place to keep us safe or save time in case of an emergency. So this is very important for those who are listening. Check out Ready for Rescue and find out a little bit more how they can add value to your home and your family as well. So before we go, can you tell us, maybe give us something inspiring for our listeners? I mean, you have a great story from an accident, from, you know, to the trauma to doing something on your own.
Well, as far as putting a business together, this has been over a year's process. I equate it to building an anthill. It's been grains of sand put together over time, and you'd be amazed what you can put together. But you do a little bit every day, and through facilities like yours, you can get additional contacts that may help you. They can maybe you brainstorm with other people and you can help them, they help you, and you provide that facility. So we all get to work together.
Yes.
And that's really, really important.
Yeah.
Wow. Good.
It is, and I'm glad to hear that you're doing something that you're very passionate about. And from you changed your trauma into your comeback, and you're helping people by paying it forward, and you're saving lives. Countless lives, just by doing the littlest things about saving seconds for emergency personnel to get to you or their loved ones. So that is an added value. It opened up my eyes, definitely. And
the second that up to minutes is the whole thing.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. So hopefully it helps somebody else out there too. I know that I'm fully aware, and Eric knows when I start to evaluate things, and if it's going to help my family and help me, I'm all over it. And so hopefully you take advantage of your services. Maybe somebody can reach out to you and help them get it together. I know I will be contacting you and for other needs,
Yes.
for my real estate, for personal. It is an added value.
Mhm.
Thank you for sharing.
Yes. And thank you, Cliff, for being a part of our show today. Great information, good insight, great story.
You both have been awesome, and your facility is absolutely amazing. If nobody's been there that's watching, it's very high-end feel. It's comfy. You got those comfy chairs. You got those little conversation groups. You got the conference rooms. You've got everything that you graduate through as a startup that you really need that is in one place.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, man. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much
You're
for being a
welcome.
part of our show. And we'd love to see you
Thank you.
soon.
You got it.
All right. Have
All
a
right.
great day.